Hi everybody. All right, we're starting off today's live stream on YouTube and Facebook. Hello. Getting this up to speed here. Okay. Hi. My name's Lynn, and if it's your first time watching, welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about breastfeeding. So if you're in the if you're trying to breastfeed and struggling or finding it challenging or just interested in learning more about it before you become a mom, I'm going to be talking about our journey today. By our, I mean mine and my babies. And I'm going to talk about how very difficult it is and how I didn't give up. And hopefully it's something that'll give you some hope or help and be helpful for you. I'm going to pull up comments today because I haven't done that in a little while. So if you're watching live, you'll be able to comment. I'll be able to pull it up on screen. And there's that for Facebook, turning that on. YouTube. Here it is. Thanks for bearing with me for a moment. Okay, that should work. There we go. Hello. Hello to everyone that has said hello so far. Now, if you're watching in the replay, just know I go live on Mondays around 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. But you can always catch the replay and, leave comments there. I love seeing those come through, and a lot of times I'll even write you back. So my live stream is on YouTube and on Facebook. And I'm kind of reintroducing this occasionally because I've got a little bit more, things are starting, okay, I'm going to jinx it if I say this out loud, but it seems like we're starting to find our groove with the new baby. We are officially 6 weeks postpartum as of today, and I have an idea. I've got an idea. I've been doing this channel now for 2.5 years, something like that. I don't know, something crazy like that. I think it's over 2 years. And I think that I've been thinking about our journey that's brought us here. And there's a lot. And I've had so many people over the years reach out and say how helpful it's been to hear our story. And I've got an idea. It's a crazy idea, and I don't know if I'll go through with it or not. But hey, I'm gonna pitch it here, and we'll just see what you guys think. So the idea is I can go back, look at my content from when I very first started, and kind of find this, I guess, in chapters, maybe in seasons, if you will. What I'd like to do is take the audio from my YouTube videos and cut it up and then kind of bring in some new audio that I record now, kind of shedding some light on some things with 2020, vision, and actually putting it out as a podcast in a way that people can listen to if they're going through infertility or if they're going through miscarriage, if they're going through fostering, if they're going through pregnancy. I mean, I've been through a lot, and I think that those are, I guess, 5 different areas, of listeners. I think that there's something there to bring it all together, and I'm very curious about playing in this, I guess, like podcast arena, because I love podcasts and I find them fascinating. And so I thought, hey, let's find out if this is actually something I can do. So let me know what you think of that idea. I'm putting it out there. I'm not expecting my current viewers to necessarily listen to my podcast because you've been watching kind of our story all along, but I'd love to know what you think as far as, I don't know, the content. I don't know what I'm looking for here, but hey, just give me an encouraging push, or be like, Lynn, don't waste your time. Just why don't you work on your freaking live stream and updating your thumbnails once in a while. That's honest and fair. CK, great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. So why don't I get started here? So today's episode, I'm going to talk about breastfeeding. This is way harder than I thought it would be. And I, like so many other people, thought that this is something that would come naturally. We've got boobs, we've got babies, and you'd think, hey, we were built this way. They should just kind of naturally connect. And that's not how it works. Again, I'm 6 weeks postpartum. And we had some challenges at the beginning, and we were very lucky in the hospital to have a lactation expert work with us there for like multiple times while we were there for, let's see, Monday. We were there from Saturday late night until Thursday early morning. So we were there for a while at the hospital. What she did was see that we were having trouble getting baby to latch with my shape of nipple, and also with baby being very small. She just couldn't really get her whole mouth over everything. So we were started on a nipple shield, and I didn't even know these things existed. And I'm going to kind of jump forward, and then I'm going to jump back and tell more of this, which you don't want to be on a nipple shield for a long period of time. So what I ended up having to do was get a lactation consultant help me wean off of, get me and baby to wean off of the nipple shield, and also just work with us on positioning and everything. Well, had that lactation consultant come a total of 3 times to our home. This is a different woman than the one that helped us in the hospital. The one that came to our home was fantastic. And I'll just do a plug for this now. No affiliates or anything like that here, but I just found them so helpful, so I hope this helps someone else. The Lactation Network .com, I believe. Lactation Network. Hold on, I'm going to fact check. It's, lactationnetwork.com. If you go there, you can enter your insurance information, and they'll check for you to see what you're eligible for as far as coverage with your insurance plan for lactation visits in home or over video, or you can go to see someone. So there's no reason not to get the help that you need paid for through your insurance, so that you can at least take a good stab at it with for breastfeeding. Marcus, hello. I have been wondering where you've been. I think I haven't, maybe I missed it, or misremembering it, but I feel like I haven't seen you in a couple weeks, so nice to see you. So anyway, we had this woman come, me and my baby, and she helped us in home, and by the 3rd visit, I was very proud because we were doing well, and she said, well, I don't think you need any more visits from me. And I said, before you go, I have a question. Why is it so challenging for humans to breastfeed? And she goes, that's a great question, this is, and guys, I'm not going to do it justice. She went on probably a 15-minute explanation of this, and I even posted a little thing on the Baby Talk Facebook page, summarizing some of this as well. But what she explained is that humans are a type of mammal that actually require social skills in order to teach breastfeeding. It's like part of our species, because we're advanced and we're social creatures, and that's how we learn from each other. So in order to encourage that learning through nature, our nature has made it so that we have to learn from each other how to breastfeed. Does that make sense? I think I'm explaining it in a nutshell, kind of the way that she explained it. There are 4 types of mammals as when it comes to breastfeeding. We are ones called carry mammals, which means we carry our babies, and we have to be taught how to breastfeed. And this is other end of the spectrum. Think about those videos of a giraffe being born, and it just falls out of mom, 6 feet down, and then all of a sudden gets up and starts walking, and then follows mom around and starts drinking. It's all natural, and baby's walking, within minutes. Again, coming back to nature, that baby has a lot of predators out in nature, and so it needs to be able to run right away. That baby's been growing inside mom a lot longer than human babies grow inside of us. Our babies actually come out a lot more underdeveloped than, say, a baby giraffe or any of these other mammals that kind of just fall out of mom and are able to stand right up. So don't compare yourself. Don't compare your breastfeeding journey to, a baby giraffe that can find mom's nipples right away and start eating without any help from another giraffe. We are very different from giraffes. But really, the story that I posted on Facebook and I'm going to get to my personal story very soon. But in a nutshell, this orangutan in captivity, this story was from earlier this year, the orangutan was born in captivity, lived its whole life in captivity, and gave birth in captivity. And when her baby came out, she didn't know what to do with it. She didn't know to breastfeed it. She wasn't taught. So one of the zookeepers brought her own baby with and showed the orangutan mother how to breastfeed. And the orangutan, who's also in our species, a Kari species, it mimicked and learned how to breastfeed her own orangutan baby. So that's just showing and demonstrating how it is that, we are meant to be taught how to do this. So, ladies, if you are struggling, and there's only one thing you take away from today's episode, it's ask for help, whether that's from a friend or a mom or a lactation consultant. Again, lactationnetwork.com is a great way to find one near you. Ask for help. This is not something you should be having to figure out on your own, and I promise there are so many things that you won't figure out on your own. Maybe once in a while, yeah, sure, people can do it. You can watch YouTube videos, whatever it is. It's meant to be taught. It's meant to be a social thing that someone else teaches you. And thank you, Marcus. Yeah, this whole thing about breastfeeding is fascinating. It's so fascinating. Okay, so back to my journey here. Okay. It's been a journey. Yes. And Marcus is commenting here, and he's saying, I think it's also important to take the pressure and guilt out of this topic. Absolutely. Yes. Before I move any further, I do not want you to get the impression that I think breastfeeding is the best way or the best way. At whatever you decide to do for feeding your baby is completely fine. If you choose to do breastfeeding, if you choose to do a mixture, not mixing your breast milk and formula, but sometimes formula, sometimes breast milk, whatever it is you choose to do, or just pumping, whatever, it does not matter. The important thing is you're feeding your baby. And I completely agree with Marcus. A big point here is there's no judgment. I'm going to share my journey because if you are trying to breastfeed, it certainly helps to hear other people's stories. And I'm just using this as a demonstration that everyone's going to struggle with breastfeeding in one way or another. Babies, first of all, oh my God, they're so hard. They're so hard to figure out. And if I haven't made that clear in my last 5 weeks of episodes, I guess there might have been one I missed. I can't remember. I got baby brain, cannot remember anything. Raising a baby is hard enough. Adding breastfeeding on top of that when you are tired and frustrated and just exhausted, it makes it even harder. Okay, so with that being said, here's my journey. And again, feel free to add questions. I'd be happy to clarify them, whether that's live now or if you're watching the replay, feel free to leave a comment or a question. And I want this to be a helpful and positive story for everybody. So I did want to breastfeed when I, became pregnant, and I have some friends that have breastfed before, and I said, well, if my friends can do it, then I can do it too. And I have talked about my friend Lauren, who did our photography for newborn photos, for maternity photos, and just, she does great work. And one of the big things she does is, all about family and breastfeeding and the beauty of women and all this kind of maternal stuff. And she inspired me, honestly, posting a lot of these pictures of breastfeeding, the connection that she captures in these photos of mothers and their babies. And I'm like, I want that. So for me, a big part of it was the connection. That was what I was looking for. Some people just want to breastfeed. I shouldn't say just, but one of their motivations is the cost savings. Formula is very, very expensive. When Bert and I looked at, how much it would be to get stocked up on some more formula just for those, days we might need it, we're like, yeah, you know what? Maybe we really should try and make this breastfeeding thing work, because man, it's a lot. It's not, you got to feed those babies a lot, and each serving is not cheap. So another reason is the nutrition that you're transferring from your breast milk into baby has so many benefits. And formula has a lot of benefits too. Obviously, it's been around for something like, I don't know, more than 50 years. Like they know, science knows what they're doing with these formulas, and there's all sorts of different kinds that you can get now too that are, specialized for babies with different needs. So whatever your reason is, right? My reason when I first started this was I wanted the connection. Then I learned about the benefits of breastfeeding, and then I learned that it was a cost saving. So those are my three reasons, and there could be even more reasons for you. Maybe it's I know that this is another big one, is convenience, right? If you just want to be able to whip your boob out and feed your baby, that's a lot faster, let me tell you, than having to go and get out a bottle, make the formula, pour the formula, whatever, then clean the bottles, and then all of that, and pack them with you if you're going anywhere. I mean, if you're on the go and baby's hungry and you're breastfeeding, if you're in a safe place or whatever, wherever, as long as, you're in a comfortable place to do it, you're able to just do it. And then there's no cleanup really. So there's 4 reasons right there that, I like breastfeeding. So, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, when I first met my baby in the recovery room after my C-section, she immediately started looking for a nipple, which is such a, I don't know if that happens for you too. Like it's exciting because you're like, oh, my baby's going to latch. I'm going to have this awesome breastfeeding journey and it's going to be great. I was fooled. At least that was what I thought. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And then sure. So the next few days, baby, we figured out that first of all, she's, I'm a first-time mom. I'm not making milk yet. I'm making colostrum. I believe I'm saying that right. And that's like it doesn't come out a lot. It's a very thick, gold-colored, I guess, kind of liquid that comes out of your nipples. And the tiny little amount goes in your tiny little baby and their tiny little stomachs. But it has so much, it's so dense with nutrients that they don't need a lot of it. And what we were doing, because we found out that our baby needed to be in the intensive care unit on her second day of life. She was there, and I needed to get her the colostrum, this liquid gold. So what I was doing was I was pumping it with a hand pump, I think, and I was getting just the tiniest little amount, and then I would put it into a tiny little syringe. And I mean, they're like seriously just milliliters of this stuff. And what we would do is we'd go to the intensive care unit for feeding every 2 hours. And I would stick my little pinky, my pinky finger into her mouth and then put the syringe alongside it and then slowly give her this colostrum. And so that was her first way of getting that from me. And I did that because she wasn't latching onto her little mouth wasn't latching onto my nipple, basically. The way that my nipples were, they weren't, let's say, developed yet as a mother. Nipples come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and mine were not, I guess, made for a baby's mouth quite yet. So, yeah, gold colored. It's seriously, yeah, Marcus is saying gold colored. That's so interesting. I had no idea. Yeah, it's it almost kind of like honey a little bit, and it is a little, yeah, gold. They do call it liquid gold, and then it is very exciting when it starts to thin out and turn a little bit more of a yellow, and then to white. When you finally get milk. It was so fascinating to me the first few days. Watching my, the discharge out of my breast change. It was so cool. So I was lucky because the nurses and everybody there helped me make sure that the baby got this colostrum from me, which is it's a great thing that even if you're not breastfeeding, it's still, I think that they still encourage you to get that to baby because of all those nutrients. So that's how we started off. And then by, a couple days later, they're like, well, we really want to make sure that you're leaving here with baby, you're not feeding baby through, with a syringe, because once you start getting, milk, you're not going to want to feed baby through a syringe. So what they did is they introduced this nipple shield, which is a silicone, kind of round, and maybe one side is kind of flat, or even like kind of this shape. I don't know, like, so that it has a little cutout for their nose, and basically it just goes right over your nipple, and then it's got a part that like sticks out, kind of like, think about the top of a bottle. And so baby's able to find that just a little bit easier than, say, a nipple that isn't protruding yet. So we did that, and our baby was also able to latch onto a pacifier in a bottle very quickly too. So, and she was also very small in size. I should add that our baby was born only 5 pounds 7 ounces. So she was very little, and they wanted her to gain weight fairly quickly. So not only did they have me give her the colostrum, but they also had me give her, I believe it was an ounce of formula as well. I think I'm doing that from memory, but I'm pretty sure that's how much it was. Or maybe it was only 20 milliliters. It was a small amount because, again, her stomach was tiny. But they wanted to make sure that she was getting nutrients, because it's a big deal. Babies lose weight after they're first born, and then they have to try and gain it back in a certain amount of time. So, yes, Marcus, exactly, like an adapter. That's what a nipple shield is kind of like. It's like making an adapter between the breast and the baby. My sister Kim is watching. Hi, Kim. How long does liquid gold last? I don't think very long. A few hours. I know that I would pump it and then give it to her within a few hours of me doing that. However, I do know some women in the Facebook group I was in were saying that before their baby was born, they were actually pumping to get the colostrum to come out before the baby was born, and then I believe they were freezing it. So just like you can freeze breast milk, you can, I believe, also freeze colostrum. So please, if you're watching this and wanting to do that, please do your own research or ask a professional about that. Ask your doctor. And CK, I see your comment here. That's an interesting part to walk into. Whip out your boob. Yep. I'm talking about boobies today, so whip them out. So when we have this nipple shield on the boob and baby's latching onto that just fine, it's awesome. You're like, okay, great, I'm breastfeeding. There's an adapter involved, but hey, baby's getting milk from my boob, and this is awesome. So we left the hospital feeling successful. And then it stuck in my head that the nurse, the lactation expert that helped us get to that point with with all of that I just talked about, said, but you don't want to use this shield forever. Some people do that, and it's a big mistake, and you don't want to do that. And I don't know the exact scientific reasons why right now, other than I know for me, like, it wasn't very comfortable, and you have to wash it every time. And again, you can't just whip out your boob and have baby suck on it if you're so used to using the nipple shield. So I don't know, maybe some people do use it forever, and that's how it works for them. And some other reasons that you may end up using a nipple shield, you hear about cracked and bloody nipples from breastfeeding. Sometimes shields are used so that you can just continue to feed as you recover from those situations. And I think that there may be other reasons that, lactation consultant or expert or nurse or something like that has you use them temporarily as well. So if you're using a nipple shield, it's not meant to be a long-term solution. It's meant to be, for a short-term thing that you wean off of, or you just take away when, because baby's used to the nipple. In my situation, the baby needed to be weaned from it because that's all it pretty much knew from when she was born. So I'm lucky in the fact that my baby was able to go from pacifier to bottle to nipple shield and then now happy news to my breast. So she's taking all of those, and there's a term out there called nipple confusion. It's supposedly a thing. It wasn't a thing for us, and I would just say don't let it scare you. If you are on your breastfeeding journey and you're hearing things about nipple confusion, don't let that be like a fact. Let it be something that might be a thing. There's a lot of things out there that'll scare you when you're in this, and honestly, like if you just took all the things that you read as fact, nothing would make sense. You wouldn't even believe the world anymore, because there's so many things that contradict each other, and that's what I found. So which is why I like my channel, where I just tell you what I experience, and then you take it from there. Like, I'm not presenting facts, scientific things to you, and I'm not a doctor or anything like that. This is just messages of hope. Okay. So we got home, and I'm using the nipple shield, and I'm coming up on, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks at home with baby, and things are going fairly well. I'm pumping to try and have a stock. I don't know if you guys have heard about these moms that are overproducers that can like pump and have tons. Okay, how can I put this in perspective? Like fill a couple bottles worth, and usually a bottle, I don't know. Okay, I'm trying to think of this in milliliters or ways of explaining. Anyway, multiple feedings in one pumping session. And a pumping session for me is now it's like 8 minutes. When I first started doing it was like 30 minutes. I wasn't supposed to be going that long. It's supposed to be about 15 minutes per boob. So if you've got a pump that is, doing both boobs at the same time, you can pump in about 15 minutes. But things are clear on your pump, so you're able to actually see when no more milk is falling into the little containers that it's all falling into. So when it stops making milk, you don't have to keep pumping anymore. So anyway, my pumping ends around somewhere between 8 and 9 minutes right now. So some of these moms out there are overproducers, and they can fill several bottles in a pumping session, and then they put it into these nice fancy milk storage bags that go into the freezer, and then they can build up this stockpile, and then they can go on vacation or have someone go back to work and have someone else feed them or drop them off at daycare, whatever. They can donate them, whatever. They've got all this milk as backup, and that's fantastic for them. Then there's people like me that are making... I will put myself in the just enough category. I was worried that I was an underproducer, and that would be the, I guess, third category if we were going to make 3 categories: overproducers, just enough, and then underproducers. Underproducers are probably, I don't know how it happens. I can't explain why, but basically they're not making enough for baby to be getting up to the weight that they need, so they often have to supplement with formula. And there are tips and tricks out there to increase your milk supply. I'm not here to give them to you, but just know that there are tips and tricks. So if you're looking for ways to increase your milk supply, just Google it and find a whole bunch of different ideas, and good luck. I've tried to increase my milk supply as well. What worked for me was kind of just following the suggestion of feeding baby and then pumping right away. And what that's doing is sending my body a signal like, okay, I need a little bit more than I just pumped for my baby. I did that a little bit mixed with extra pumping sessions, mixed with pumping and then feeding baby. I don't actually know exactly what worked for me. All I know is I'm at a point now where I can get a couple, like a bottle or 2 in the fridge during the day, so that, at night we've got at least a serving for Bert to do one of the feedings with Amelia in the middle of the night. That's what works for us. I want to stress that your first several weeks with baby, do not expect to sleep an 8-hour night or 6-hour or 4-hour in a row. If you have a magical unicorn baby, where you get to sleep longer than a few hours in a row, congrats. You are super special. You don't need to go around bragging about it because it makes the rest of us really, really angry. Okay, pro tip. I am really excited when I get 4 hours of sleep in a row. I'm really excited when I get 3 hours of sleep in a row. You know what? I'll even take 2 in a row. It's just how it is. It's what they always talk about as new parents is the whole sleep thing. So there's that. Okay, so let me try and put this in a timeline for you. So we're learning in the first few weeks that I am producing just enough. I am pumping so that we can give milk to our baby in a bottle, and then every time our my baby's breastfeeding from me, it's with a nipple shield. So I go on, get a lactation consultant book through lactationnetwork.com. They take my insurance. Lo and behold, they'll do as many sessions as I need, completely covered by insurance. This is incredible. This is good luck for me. This is not the case for everybody. I'm not trying to be braggadocious, but I also don't want to tell you to go onto this thing and expect that as many unlimited visits as you want are going to be covered. For some people in their insurance, it's only one visit, and for some people without insurance, I've heard that these visits can be anywhere from $40 to $200. So I'm just letting you know that this is another thing that there's no solid one size fits all. But I do highly recommend having a consultant come to your home, even if you think things are going well. Like, just kind of have it on your mind as an option. So there are many different holds for breastfeeding, right? It is not always in your arms holding baby like this. There's the football hold, there's side sleeping, there is laid back, there is baby laying completely on you. There are a lot of different things, and so someone that knows what they're doing, if baby's not latching in one way, they'll be able to help you adjust and try different positions. They'll also be able to, like, even if you are holding baby like this and having trouble, like, knowing that their chin is supposed to hit your breast and your nipple should be pointing at their nose, just so that your nipple goes to the top of their mouth and they get their whole mouth over your whole areola. Like, I didn't know that until I watched videos and had someone tell me. And now I just told you, and maybe that's helpful, I don't know. But all these things, like, if baby's only sucking on the nipple, oh my God, just the thought of that right now hurts my nipples, okay? So the latch has to be right. If you have a bad latch, this is what can cause those cracked and bleeding nipples. And let me tell you, if you get painful nipples, you want to give up breastfeeding. You will cry. You will cry. I have cried. I have sobbed. I have cried out of frustration because baby's not latching. Even when I had the nipple shields, she wasn't taking it. And that could be because she's gassy. She's got a full diaper. She's tired. She's too awake. She's distracted. There's a million reasons, and you don't know why because your baby can't talk and tell you. So it's frustrating. It's so frustrating, and you're so tired. And in the middle of the night, you just don't want to do it anymore. So if you feel like you want to give up, I hear you. Press on, and you can do it. And if you give up, that is okay too. That is okay. But here's a few more messages of hope. Like, I cried hard. Like, I cried like I was a kid again. Like, the world is so unfair, and I like audibly cried hard. It was like snot coming out of my nose hard. And not just once. I've cried like that a couple times now. It is normal. It is so normal to cry like that. And even if you don't cry that hard, that's normal too. But tears are normal. So please, if you've cried, if you felt frustrated, if you felt like you were doing it wrong, that means you're doing it right. That means that you've entered parenthood, that you're a mama now. It's part of the territory. I promise. Every single mama that I have told this to has said, yes, I've cried too. Any mama that it looks like she's got it all down and she's doing it perfectly, she's cried. I promise. Someone come out and tell me that you've never cried as a mama, and I will sing a different song. But every mama cries. Okay, and even papas cry too. So Even if you're a dad watching and you're frustrated because you don't understand your baby in one way or another, that's normal too. You are also very welcome to have your feelings. And honestly, postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, normal therapy, whatever, have therapy, have someone to talk to. It's a very real thing to let all this stuff kind of pile up and feel overwhelming. So all that is normal. That is part of my breastfeeding journey. All of that is part of the story. Breastfeeding is like the hardest, to me, one of the hardest parts, because that's the reason that you have to get up in the middle of the night, because the baby is crying and they're hungry, and you have to get up multiple times. So lactation consultant comes with me. I said, look, I got to get off these nipple shields. She helps teach me the latch. She's like, you're holding your baby too high. You need to adjust it this way. Hey, try this other position. That first visit she was with me, she was there for like 3 hours working with me. So in between week 1 and 2, I tried the things that she said, and some of them didn't work. And next time she came, I reported back on what was working, what is not, and the progress. And she's like, okay. She's like, well, what about the nipple shield? And I'm like, I'll be honest, like, she latched a few times without it, but it wasn't going great. And then the second time she was with me, the big lesson she gave me, because I learned the positions and I learned the other things she was teaching me. The second thing she taught me was patience. I was giving up too easy. When baby was getting fussy, I would go right back to the nipple shield and be like, okay, this is fine. Just stop crying. Stop being fussy. Just eat, because I was so worried that baby wasn't going to eat. I gave up. And I put the nipple shield on because I knew that's what she would take. So she said, okay, patience. Baby's fussing, sure. Give them your finger to suck on. That they just want something to suck on to soothe them, right? So once the baby is soothed, have them right by your nipple and then transfer them to your nipple. Okay, fine. With me, my nipples were soft, and I've never been someone that had like hard nipples. Sorry to point these things at you, but that's just not how mine are. And like I said, everyone's nipples are different. So now they are all the time hard. Nipples change when you start breastfeeding, and they'll change back, according to Kelly, because I was talking to her about this yesterday. Anyway, I see a lot of comments, and I'll get to these in just a moment here. But patience was what she taught me. And she also taught me that I could take my kind of fingers and press around the nipple in order to kind of get it to, harden, to stick out a little bit. She also taught me to make a sandwich with my boob, make it easier for baby to, find it. So I kind of, squeeze my boob, not the areola, but like the whole thing, so that it makes a sandwich so baby comes in and can kind of find it easier. And then I do breast compressions, because if you squeeze on your boob, and I'm glad that you can't actually see what I'm doing to my boob right now, because I feel like YouTube wouldn't allow this online. Anyway, the breast compression, so you're squeezing higher up on the boob or on the side of the boob, and it actually makes the milk come out a little bit more forcefully through your nipples. So baby starts to get a little bit more milk, and baby's like, oh, I'm getting milk now, and then they start sucking, and then there you go. Then you can let go of your boob, and baby stays on boob. But that takes practice. It takes practice for you, and takes practice for baby. And let me tell you, even when you think you've got it, there's going to be a day of regression, and you're going to go back to the nipple shield, like I did, and that was super sad, and I cried, and I'm like, no, what happened? Did we lose it? Is this ever going to work? And it will. And then the next day, all of a sudden, baby's like, oh yeah, where's your nipple? Get this thing out of here. And with her tiny little razor sharp hands, because those fingernails are really sharp, she'll rip the nipple shield off, whether she knows what she's doing or not, and then just latch on. And it's amazing. At least that's how it went for me, with some, ups and downs and setbacks and jump forwards. It's when she finally latched for like 3 feeding sessions in a row, it felt like a huge milestone. It felt like, oh my God, we might actually be able to do this. Okay. So by the third visit, the third week that the lactation consultant came, because she was coming about once a week for 3 weeks, and she came, and I was like, okay, baby, this is our big test. Let's show her what we've been practicing. Sure enough, baby latched, and it was like, yes, we've made it. And like the next day I was like, man, I really wish I didn't do that, because now she's not latching again. And I felt like, wait, come back. I need one more session. No, that's not entirely true. I did wish that I could call her again, but I'll get to that in a second. The last session that I had with her, what did we work on? So we worked on just like kind of fine-tuning the latch and making actually this is very fascinating too. When she came, she actually brought this giant backpack. I'm like, whoa, what's in your bag, Mary Poppins? And she pulls out a baby scale. So she puts it up on the tabletop and then takes baby with a clean diaper, and then puts baby on the scale and gets the pre-feeding weight. And then I feed the baby. And then she weighs the baby again to find out how many ounces of milk the baby just ate. How cool is that? So we were able to find out that from like weeks 1 and 2, it went from like 1 ounce to 1.5 ounces to, I believe it was 2 ounces on the third week. So I'm like, oh my God, my baby's taking 3 or 2 ounces at every feeding. Please don't use that as a marker for what is normal, because my baby is a certain size, and I've been reading about other babies that are like 3 weeks old that are already doing 3 ounces of milk per feeding. So please, your baby and whatever ounces they're doing, that's your story. That's my story, is not your story. So, I'm going to get to these comments. But anyway, I just want to say it's super fascinating that part of the whole thing here is to find out how much they're eating, and then the lactation consultant has this fancy little chart and calculator where they can help you decide if you're on track with that. Are you making enough milk? Is baby getting enough milk? And how many feedings a day you should be doing in order to hit these, like, this curvature of what's healthy for a developing baby. So that's another really cool reason to have a lactation consultant do a visit with you, whether that's you go to them or them go to you. Obviously, it's kind of hard to do if you do one of those telehealth visits with them. Okay, to the comments, because wow, we've got a lot of comments here. So to the people that are jumped in, Kelly, hi, how's it going? CK is saying, I'm learning so much. This is so interesting. Thanks for sharing your experience. Hell yeah. Yes, CK's sister-in-law had an entire freezer full of breast milk. I have heard this so many times. I have heard not just one person, but multiple people tell me that they buy a deep freezer, an extra freezer just for their breast milk. I'm like, that's crazy. And awesome. Good for you. I'll be happy if I ever freeze a bag of milk. Someday, maybe. It's a dream, but we'll see. And yes, there's a question, there are cookies or something that help with milk production, right? Yes, there are lactation cookies out there. Some people say they work, some people say they don't. That's like anything. I will say also that like lanolin, lanolin cream. Googling it now. Yep, lanolin cream, LANOLIN. It is a natural product. I believe it's made from sheep, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think sheep are harmed in that. Lynn, get your facts straight. Where does lanolin cream come from? Yeah, the wool of sheep. Okay, so it's a waxy substance derived mainly from the wool of sheep. Okay, the sheep's glands produce this wool wax to help shed water and keep the sheep dry. Okay, so similar to that, it goes on your nipple, and it actually helps prevent your nipple from cracking. I cannot remember which one of my awesome friends highly recommended this to me and said, just start using it right away. I am so glad I listened to them because it works for me. It works really, really well for me. I have not had any cracking or bleeding. And it is really nice because when your nipples get sore and even the thought of getting in the shower and the water hitting your nipples makes you cringe, you can put this cream on there and like the water just kind of beads off of it. It's really nice. So it's kind of waxy, but the cool thing is it's not harmful for babies, so you don't have to like worry about wiping it off or anything. And really by the time that baby takes their next feeding, it's already pretty much been absorbed into your skin anyway. But it just keeps everything kind of soft in a very natural way. So anyway, that's just a sample of what works for one does not work for all. Okay. Okay, so let's see here. So she did extra pumping sessions. Yes. So some women, it's not, you don't even have to be, yes. So let me read this for you guys. I wouldn't say she was an overproducer. She was just worried she wouldn't have enough in the future, so she did extra pumping sessions. Yes, and this is what I do too, but I never get enough where I can actually freeze it yet. And there's definitely, this in the range of overproducers, underproducers, and just enough. So there's also things in between there, which is what CK is saying her sister-in-law is. And so yes, I didn't mean to say that there's only 3 buckets of milk producers. There's definitely a scale, and gray areas in between. Yes, and about the lactation cookies, thank you for Kelly for commenting here. Most of those include something called brewer's yeast, and that's what seems to be the magical ingredient that works for those. And Kelly's also saying that pizza and beer also work. Bring on the beer and pizza. Oh my God. It was my first beer back yesterday. And it felt amazing. It was my first drink, but it was my first beer. And I'm not a big beer drinker. But man, I had 1 beer yesterday and I was so happy. It wasn't just from the beer. I was also happy because it was my first soccer game back yesterday. It was just a great day yesterday. Anyway. CK saying, I too am excited when I get 4 hours of sleep in a row and I have no baby. Yeah, I mean, sometimes sleep is hard, these days for some people. It's no joke. Sorry CK, and I hope that you find sleep, and I hope we all find sleep soon. Yes, exactly. The expression is sleep like a baby, not sleep after having a baby. Yeah, sleeping like a baby though might mean that you're sleeping 17 hours a day just with, waking up every 2 or 3 hours. Ugh. Kim, I can't help you with this question. I'm curious if people who have twins or triplets naturally produce more or if they have to supplement with formula. I believe your body will produce what it needs for the babies, for multiple. But this is, it wouldn't be much different, from like 1 baby to 2 or 3. Your body supposedly will try to make what your baby needs. And a lot of times with breastfeeding, what'll happen is if you don't give the baby every time let's give you a real example here. So let's just say we were supplementing with formula even 2 times, 2 of the 8 to 12 feedings a day. My body would stop producing quite as much because is adjusting to that formula that you're giving baby. Or if or let's say at nighttime when Bert was doing the feeding with baby, I learned the hard way that if I didn't pump while he was feeding the baby, 2 things would happen. One is my body's going to think, it doesn't need me to be producing enough milk every 2 to 3 hours. It just needs milk every 4 to 6 hours. So that's how some people start to deplete their supply, is that they're not matching what their baby is actually doing or needing. And the other, I just lost my train of thought. Oh my God. Oh, and the other reason you don't want to don't want to go too long in between feedings, and I learned this the hard way too, is because it hurts really bad. Your boobs will swell up with milk, and first of all, they'll become very hard, and it's hard for baby to suck on, say, something that's like, think of it like on a basketball. I think is how my lactation consultant is like, try and think about sucking like on a nipple on a basketball versus like a nipple on, say, a balloon. If it's supple like a balloon, you can actually like get your face in there. Basketball is going to make it a lot harder. So with that, sometimes you have to let a little milk out so baby can get in there. But what happened to me, and this again does not happen for everybody, but I am one of the unfortunate people where it does happen, I will have blocked milk ducts if I let my boobs go for too long, and it feels seriously like there is like a rock or pebbles or marbles inside of my boob, and they are so painful, so painful, that even just touching my boob would be like, I don't want to breastfeed today. And so people quit at that point, because it's so painful. So there's a lot of things that cause women to not want to do this. The cracked and bleeding nipples, give up. The mastitis, you want to give up. The mastitis is like what happens if you get an infection from not releasing that pressure. And I know I've been talking a lot today. I'm going to try and wrap this up fairly soon. Maybe I should make this a two-parter. The journey's been a journey, guys. It's been a long journey. It's been a 6-week journey. It's hard to put into one episode. So anyway, the question, I don't even know where that came from now. But anyway, yes. So your body will produce what baby needs, is the theory, right? And for you to be an overproducer, underproducer, and somewhere in between, there's a lot that plays into that. And you can kind of train your body, I guess, to produce more. And that can include cookies. It can include extra pumping sessions. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so you guys are talking about crying. I talked about how I was crying, and crying can be a good release. And I read Mom's comment here because I thought what she was referring to is like when I'm in public now and I hear a baby cry, all of a sudden my boobs start to like respond to that sound. Because when my baby cries, my boobs are like, oh, it's hungry, let's get ready. And it's doing a letdown. It's like letting my milk like be ready to be had. And like when you're pumping, there's even like a mode for a couple minutes at the beginning that kind of like simulates that letdown, that's what I thought. Crying can be a good release. Yes. Crying can make the milk flow too. Crying means you care. Absolutely. Crying is good. Let that stuff out of your body. 100%, guys. Everyone should have a good cry once in a while. Thank you for saying this. Crying isn't just for babies. Yeah. Kelly was commenting on, they told me to make a hamburger with my nipple and shove it in baby's mouth. Yes, exactly. This is a popular tip, and yeah, it makes it a lot easier for a baby to get their mouth over that hamburger. Love it. Marcus is saying YouTube specifically allows for this for educational reasons, referring to me and what I was gesturing towards my boobs, which is off camera. Lower the shields. Oh my God, you guys are so funny. Oh, what page are we on here today? Okay. Oh, here we go. Okay, and here we go. I think I'm caught up. No, here we go. Supply and demand. It is awesome. Power pumping is the term. Thank you, Kelly, for helping me out there. So power pumping will help, is one of the ways that you can increase your supply. Yes, and Kelly answered that question that I took way too long to answer, but it's supply and demand. If you put 3 babies to breast, your body should produce what those 3 babies need. Thank you for saying that way more succinctly than I did. Yes, and so CK saying, yes, I remember my sister-in-law sticking to that 2 to 3 hours of pumping. So when Bert does one of the feedings for us in the middle of the night, although I love that he's taking the baby and doing that whole routine, because it's not just feeding the baby, it is then burping the baby and changing the baby and settling the baby down and getting baby to fall back asleep, and not just to the first sleep, then you have to wait 15 minutes for them to go into the deep sleep so that they'll actually stay in their bassinet without waking up. So yeah, the whole routine for us, if you're lucky, could take half hour to 45 minutes, and more realistically about an hour. So when he's doing, his shift with the baby, I just have to wake up and pump, and I have gotten the whole pumping thing down now. I can be done in 15 minutes, and that's with me going downstairs to wash the flanges and the bottle, and put it in the refrigerator. So I got this now, and I can do it in bed too, so I don't even have to, I don't know. It's not a big deal. Yes. Oh, and Kelly, thank you for making this comment too, because this has happened as well. The letdown on a full breast can also make them choke because it's too much flow. And that's 100% true. My poor little baby, sometimes she doesn't know what to expect every time because it's different. Like if it's been a longer time between feedings and there's more pressure built up behind it versus if I pumped, and she needs to work a little harder to get the milk. If it's one of those ones where there's a lot of pressure, the little cough that she has, which is, it's cute, but it's so scary as a mom, having the little baby like sound like that they're drowning almost. They're not drowning, but just like if you were to take on a little bit of a drink down the wrong tube, a little bit, as we say, went down the wrong pipe. That's kind of how it is what I equate it to for baby. So anyway, you guys, thank you so much for engaging in a lot of this with me. And there's even more comments here. So thank you so much. I think I'm back up. I'm caught up with you guys. Man, I hope you guys have learned. Well, I think you have learned a little bit today. One or two things. If you're watching and you have comments about your journey and you want to leave it in the comments for others to see. Or I can even, if it's something that I want to bring up next week on, I feel like there might even be more to bring up next week about breastfeeding, and continue this talk. Happy to do that. Where did my journey end? So I got to a point where we were breastfeeding on the regular, and I was so excited when we had a few days in a row, and I'm like, boom, we're there. We are there. No, we are not there. And here's why. My nipples became so sore, I wanted to give up. They weren't cracked and bleeding, but they were just so raw from her sucking on them. And it's that they were, like, my nipples are still coming in. Think about just constantly pulling on a piece of skin over and over and over until all of a sudden, it's stretching out, right? And it's not going to just turn into a stretched out piece of skin on you. It's going to be raw and from rubbing and friction, and it's going to freaking hurt. And that's what's happening to my nipples. So I like to say, my nipples are coming in and they're finally almost hardened. So we're almost there, and I continue to use the lanolin cream, and that works for me. Another thing that my consultant says was to actually take a little bit of breast milk and put it on the nipple, and that's a natural way of keeping your nipples hydrated, and the natural healing components of your breast milk will keep them great. That didn't work for me. I needed the lanolin cream, but find what works for you. And like I said at the beginning and many times throughout this, everyone's journey is a little different. I just encourage you, if you're breastfeeding or thinking about it, it's going to be hard. Get extra help. And if you've got friends that are willing to help you out too, like if you can't get a lactation consultant or aren't comfortable with a stranger, I find it easier with a stranger rather than being like, hey, Kelly, can you come over and see how my latch looks? Just know that we are meant to be social creatures and learn from each other. I'll leave you with one more fun fact for the day that I learned from my lactation consultant, just to further prove. And by the way, she is not just a lactation consultant, but she actually studied this in college. She is a lactation anthropologist, so she knows all about this, the cultural history around breastfeeding. And she said that in tribes, it's been known that even grandmothers will start lactating again so that they can help feed the grandbabies. So this is a thing. Like, wow, humans are so fascinating and so cool that, I don't know, that breastfeeding is actually more part of who we are than we realized. So thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Dad, I will go back and read your comments about my podcast. I know I asked about those, but he said this session probably could have been compressed to a good, organized 15-minute podcast. We're going on about an hour now of a live stream, but thanks, Dad. Always keeping me real. I love it. CK is saying, I enjoyed this live. Yes, I learned a lot. I think it's awesome you are sharing this, but you are definitely helping people. Thanks so much. And my dad is saying, after this, I know I'll never look at boobs the same way again. Kelly also offered a tip. Coconut oil works as well. I also heard that olive oil is another option too. So obviously the food grade kind. Yes, exactly. If you're ever in doubt, check with your doctor or pediatrician first. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for real. And I will see you. I'm going to wrap this up, and I will see you guys next week. And actually, I'm just curious now about the comments. When I first opened, I said I was thinking about turning this into a podcast. I think your perspective could be interesting to the internet. However, is your information something that can't be easily found already? No, because my story is my story, Dad. What's my unique slant? I think that I'm telling things from a... I think I'm going to struggle with who the audience is, but my audience here on the live stream has continued to surprise me of who reaches out and tells me that our stories help them through whatever they're going through. So I think, thank you for posing these questions, Dad. Always helpful. I appreciate it. And we'll see where it goes. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. I will see you next Monday, 6 o'clock on Monday, for more updates on how things are going. Have a great week. Thanks for watching. Bye.